So what if that viral magnesium supplement that you're taking for sleep or anxiety or insomnia is actually the worst possible one that you could choose? And what if I told you that the number that you see on the front of the bottle, that 500 milligram promise, is quietly misleading you? Magnesium is everywhere right now, at least it feels like that. AI influencers and TikTok trends are pushing it as a miracle cure for what I just mentioned: anxiety, insomnia, and sleep, and even weight gain. And look, they're not entirely wrong about its importance, but the way it's being sold is creating a massive problem. Most people are taking it completely wrong, choosing the wrong form, wasting their money, and in some cases not even getting any of the benefits that they were promised or expecting from it. Okay, so by the end of this video, you are going to understand the critical mistakes that almost everyone makes when it comes to magnesium and how to avoid that, how to choose the right form for you, depending on what it is that you're wanting it for, and what the science actually says about the so-called miracle benefits that magnesium can have. But first, welcome to my channel. I'm Bonnie, the Renegade Dietitian, and here we have a look at health and nutrition and all these things through a skeptical, evidence-based lens where possible, including the parts that the industry doesn't always highlight. So if you're curious about what's really going on with your health and you want all the nutrition hacks and facts, then don't forget to subscribe and stick around. Okay. So let's start with the biggest myth of them all, and you've probably heard it, that everyone is deficient in magnesium. That's at least what the supplement companies want you to believe, but it is definitely an oversimplification. The truth is that magnesium deficiency is actually pretty rare. What is common, however, though, is suboptimal intake. Research shows that about half of Americans don't actually get enough magnesium from their diet alone. But that doesn't mean that half of the population needs to be running out to buy a high-dose supplement. Believe it or not, your body is actually smart and your kidneys are really good at holding on to magnesium when intake is low. So the real problem highly likely isn't that you're massively deficient. It's that when you do decide to supplement, you're probably not choosing the right option. Which brings us to the biggest mistake that I see people make, which is choosing the wrong form. See, not all magnesium is created equal, and thinking that all magnesium supplements do the same thing is like thinking that all cars are exactly the same. But a beat-up sedan is not going to perform in the same way that a Formula One race car will, right? Most people just grab the cheapest and most common bottle on the shelf, which is usually magnesium oxide. But the problem with that is that your body only absorbs around 4% of this form, just 4%. It's so poorly absorbed that its main use is actually as a laxative. So if you're taking magnesium oxide to help with sleep or anxiety, then you're mostly just paying for an expensive trip to the bathroom, depending on how much you have. Now let's talk about some better options out there. So magnesium citrate, for example, is a step up from magnesium oxide. Your body absorbs roughly around 30 to 40% of it, so 3 to 4 times more than magnesium oxide. But if you're here because of the sleep and anxiety hype, then the one that you really want to know about is magnesium glycinate or biglycinate. They're basically the same thing. This form is a superstar compared to the others. It's bound to the amino acid glycine, which itself has a calming effect on the nervous system, and it's one of the most bioavailable forms. And while we don't have an exact percentage of how much is absorbed, studies show that it's absorbed significantly better than oxide, magnesium oxide, and tends to be gentle on digestion as well, with no laxative effect, unless you're taking super high doses. So this is the form that's actually being studied for sleep and relaxation. Now there are other forms as well that have less evidence behind them, in human trials anyway. But for example, magnesium malate, that absorbs about as well as magnesium citrate, so still better than the oxide. And it has good solubility, it's gentle on digestion, and sometimes is the preferred one for muscle support and energy-related goals rather than sleep. So that's what a lot of the data supports it for at the moment. And then we have magnesium threonate or magnesium L-threonate, which isn't necessarily absorbed better overall, but it may deliver more magnesium into the brain tissue because it crosses the blood-brain barrier more efficiently. So it's promising for cognition or cognitive related things, but still really early research on that one and very low elemental magnesium per dose. And then the last one I want to mention is magnesium taurate, which is again limited in human data, but it likely absorbs well comparable to other chelates like glycinate. And this form is studied mainly for its potential heart support synergy with taurine. So it's not a superior uptake or anything like that. They just have different functions, or at least that's what they're being researched for. But what I will say is those last three definitely need more research behind them to understand, amounts, absorption, and the specific outcomes that they can have. Okay, so you've picked the right form, right? But here's the second mistake that many people make, and that is hidden right on the label. And it's the difference between the total weight and the elemental magnesium. So when a bottle says, for example, 500 milligrams of magnesium citrate, that 500 milligrams is the weight of the entire compound. So the magnesium and the citrate that it's bound to. The actual amount of magnesium that your body can use is the elemental magnesium, and that is only a fraction of that total weight. So for magnesium citrate, for example, only about 10 to 16% of that total weight is actual magnesium. So your 500 milligram pill is really only giving you somewhere between 55 to 80 milligrams of elemental magnesium. And this is so important because all of the official recommendations are based on elemental magnesium, not the total amount. So when you're buying a bottle of magnesium, make sure that it actually says on it specifically how much is elemental magnesium. And it should differentiate between that on the label, okay? And if you're not sure, or it's magnesium oxide or something like that, and it doesn't say it, then it's probably dodgy and I would recommend not getting it. So the safe or upper limit for supplemental magnesium is 350 milligrams of elemental magnesium per day. And this is why you see some influencers promoting these insane 700 milligram doses, because they're either ignoring the science or they don't actually understand it, and they're suggesting that the total weight should be around that. But that's why it's so important to read the fine print on the supplement facts panel to see what you're actually getting and what you actually need too. Okay, so now that we know all of that, let's get to the viral question. Does magnesium actually work for sleep in particular? The hype from the Sleepy Girl mocktail would have you believe that it's a magical sedative, but the science is a little more modest, shall we say. A 2023 review of studies found a link between magnesium levels and sleep quality, which is promising, but the clinical trials are small and the results are mixed. Most of the research uses different forms of magnesium, not glycinate specifically. So it makes it really hard to draw conclusions from and even to compare them, and annoying when it's not using one of the best forms supposedly for that. So there was one older study in older adults that found that magnesium supplements helped people fall asleep a little bit faster. So it was about 15 to 20 minutes faster than usual, which, I mean, it's helpful, but it's definitely not a miracle cure for insomnia, is it? So what would be my move here, the renegade move here, or suggestions for you? I would think of it less like a sleeping pill and more like a tool that actually helps your body calm down. Magnesium helps regulate neurotransmitters like GABA, which is your body's main relaxation chemical. So it helps your nervous system switch from fight or flight to rest and digest. So it's not going to knock you out, or it's very, very unlikely to, but it might help you unwind and actually get into a state where sleep becomes more easy or you fall asleep a little bit faster. It is low risk, and for many people it's worth a try, and in my opinion a lot better than any sleeping pills, but it's not a good replacement for them, and it's also not a good replacement for good sleep hygiene or medical treatment or a real sleep disorder too. But magnesium isn't just about sleep either. It is involved in more than 300 enzyme reactions in your body, and different forms can support different functions like I mentioned earlier. For a little bit more on that, magnesium malate is often used for energy production and muscle recovery, since malate plays a key role in the Krebs cycle, whereas magnesium taurate may support heart health and blood pressure regulation, thanks to the amino acid taurin's cardiovascular effects. And then magnesium threonate has been studied for brain and memory support because it crosses the blood-brain barrier more effectively, like I mentioned earlier, though the evidence on that is still really early. And then for general muscle cramps or spasms, forms like magnesium citrate or glycinate are the most studied and well-absorbed choices. So most of these benefits are seen at daily intakes of roughly between 200 to 350 milligrams of elemental magnesium, and ideally split across meals. Okay, so to kind of summarize, if you are going to supplement with magnesium, here is how to do it the right way based on the current evidence that we have. So first off, you want to choose the right form for your goal. So for sleep and stress, for example, and general use as well without any stomach issues, magnesium glycinate is usually the best choice. Also for restless leg, I suffer from restless leg, and I mean, I can do a whole video on that in itself. Magnesium is probably not the only thing you need to be looking at here, but I have found that taking 3, which would equate to about, what is it? Let me see. I have it right here. Okay, so there's 120 milligrams of elemental iron. So 3 would be about, what is that? 320, 40, 50, 60. I hope my maths is right there. 360 milligrams of elemental magnesium. And that is also prescribed by my doctor. I'm not just willy-nilly doing it. But it's another function of it is it potentially could help with restless leg as well. So the second thing I want you to remember is to check the elemental dose of it. For sleep, studies use between 200 to 400 milligrams of elemental magnesium. Doses above the 350 milligram upper limit increase gastrointestinal side effects and can be risky in kidney disease. So, I mean, high therapeutic doses are used medically, e.g. for things like constipation, but not necessarily for sleep and not without supervision. So I would aim for under that unless you're being told otherwise by your healthcare professional. Third is timing and consistency. They matter more than the exact hour that you take it. So try taking your magnesium with a small meal or snack to help improve tolerance of it and reduce any chance of stomach upset, and give it time. So you probably won't notice a difference on the first night of taking it or right away, right? You want to stick with it and be consistent for at least 2 to 4 weeks before judging its effects. And then fourth, be aware of interactions with it. So magnesium can interfere with some antibiotics and thyroid medications as well. So always space them out at least 2 hours away from them. And high doses of calcium or zinc can also compete for absorption with magnesium. So don't have the magnesium close to consuming supplements or foods that are rich in these. And finally, and this is probably the most important one, food first as always. Supplements are just that. They're supplements, right? And in this day and age, I feel like we need them more than we used to, but they are meant to supplement a healthy diet and not replace it entirely. So your body is designed to get nutrients from food, and that is where it absorbs it first, because there are so many things that interfere and interact with absorption in your body. So things like pumpkin seeds and almonds and spinach and black beans, even dark chocolate, are good sources of magnesium. So focus on getting these foods into your diet before you even think about reaching for a pill, unless you're told by a healthcare professional, of course. But magnesium's just there to support a healthy diet and lifestyle if for some reason you're not getting enough or struggle to get enough. Okay, so here's the bottom line. Magnesium isn't a scam, but the way that it's being marketed online often is. The secret isn't some miracle powder or a viral mocktail of different types of magnesium. It's just understanding the science behind it and the form that's right for you. Choosing the right form, checking the elemental dose, and not falling for the influencer hype that promises a quick fix. Your body is incredibly adaptive, and the moment that you start giving it the right inputs, it knows exactly what to do for the most part, all right? So now I want to hear from you. Have you tried magnesium? What form did you take? How much did you take? And did you actually notice any difference in your sleep or stress levels? Or if you took it for some other reason, did you notice any benefits from it? Let's actually share some of the real world experiences in the comments below, because we know that is often, just as important in my opinion and just as valuable than any marketing claim is. And if you found this video helpful and it cleared up some of the confusion that you had maybe around magnesium, then please give it a like and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and share it with anyone you know who's been swept up in the magnesium hype. They could really benefit from this. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video and I will see you in the next one.